You're listening to Best Forevers, a podcast for kindred spirits, a podcast that encourages you to love more in your friends and to further consider the issues that plague friendships. I'm Alysa Lucas, and I have to say, when I did last week's episode about alone time and friendship, I had no idea what was going to happen in the following days. So last week's episode focused on when I had to self-quarantine because I had the flu, and talking about ideas related to that: social isolation, silent treatment, loneliness, all these different things that where we have alone time, whether we choose it or not, how we can maintain our friendships. And since that time, in Michigan, where I'm at, my school's classes have moved online. All schools K through 12 are off until April. There's no March Madness. There's no winter or spring sports at my university or for professional sports. A lot has changed. Even Broadway has gone dark. But you know, the place that's busy, where I went this morning to do my usual shopping, was the grocery store. And I think there's a lot of tense things going on. We're getting a lot of information. It's overwhelming. In some cases, we might not know what information to believe regarding the virus that's spreading and whether or not we should take it seriously. And I think that if you're anything like me, you've been deep in your anxieties and uncertainties and thoughts. And not only on top of that, I'm thinking about my parents and my friends, what they're going to do with their children, thinking about my students back at home, if it's a safe space, if they have what they need, worrying about the workers in my town and across the nation. There's so many things to worry about. And one of the things is I wanted to come on here today. I pushed back today's episode, which would be the book club episode with me and Claire about the Judy Blume book, Summer Sisters. And that will be out next Friday, so you can stay tuned for that. But I thought that it was important to talk about what's going on now. And with the coronavirus spread, I think that no matter what, it's better safe than sorry. Stay home, stay away from people, try to decrease the spread, try to decrease the infection. Don't want to lose anyone, neighbors, friends, students, family, whatever the case is, that this is the time where we sort of have to come together and help each other out, but at the same time, cope with a lot of difficult things that are going on, a lot of anxieties. And like I said, that was something that I have experienced in the last couple of days. And, you know, I haven't had to take an anxiety pill in a couple weeks, and I've had 3 this week. So if that gives you any indication of where my brain and my heart and my soul is at, that's where it's at. And I think however we might cope with it, you know, we got to do what's best for us. We got to protect ourselves. We got to protect our people and do what we can to be neighborly and to be good to other people so that we don't spread any sort of infection. But what that means is that we are forced into isolation. Some people will be quarantined. Many of us will be inside our homes, hoping that the Wi-Fi continues to work as we watch Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and Disney Plus and all those kinds of things, and trying to figure out, you know, inside our homes, do we have enough things to take care of us for the next month? Do we have all our bills taken care of? Are we getting enough money? There's a lot to worry about. I think it's okay to have these concerns. Absolutely is okay to cope with it the best we know how. But one of the things is, once you have that time, if there is a chance for you to set that aside or put a pause on it or remove yourself from scrolling through Twitter for more than a couple minutes, then it's thinking about what actions you can put into place for yourself, because it might very well be that we will be isolated for several weeks. And so what I think is most important, though, coming from my point of view as someone who studies relationships and communication, is that what we really do need in this time is connection. And that can be really difficult to do because connection is something that often happens face to face. I think about my students, how much joy I have walking in the room and seeing them, and it's that back and forth and good times. And sometimes it's like, oh, that class was annoying today. And I don't mean people specifically, just like, that didn't go well today. But overall, there is some level of energy and being energized and by being around other people. And this idea that when we are with our friends, we try to be as face-to-face as possible, whether it be FaceTime or getting together to play cards or to talk over drinks or to binge watch something together. And so when we think about connection, we're probably often thinking about that it is something that happens when we're together. And right now, that might not be possible, but we still have to think about how we can stay connected, because that is going to help us conquer all the anxieties. It's going to help us conquer uncertainties. It's going to help us find solutions to difficulties that we have. And it's one of those things that can help us maintain some level of normalcy. I mean, I have to say, this is unprecedented. And I am a huge fan of basketball, and to think no March Madness. But I also understand, like, people's lives are the most important thing, whether they're the players, the people who work, or anyone who might just be around anyone who would have went to any of the games. But it is something where it's like, that's what I did in March. I watched basketball. So I saw online one of my friends from high school. He is a sports editor at Yahoo, and he's like, well, since there's no basketball, I'm going to go back and watch my 6 favorite Michigan State basketball games. And I was like, good attitude, right? That's the thing, is that we can't control everything that's going on. You got the things that you might need at home, but then how can we put some things into action that might help us feel better, help us get through these difficulties, sort of band together, and then when we have this isolation lifted, that we can go back to connection, at least feel like we have been connected this whole time. So this is what I wanted to do today. Let's talk a little bit about it, because I know that's weighing on everyone's mind. And certainly if that is something that is weighing on your mind and you don't feel like you have anyone to talk to, then feel free to message me at bestforeverspod@gmail.com if you want to vent, if you want to ask specific questions, you just want to put something out there and send it to someone who will respond. I will absolutely 100% do that. So again, it's bestforeverspod@gmail.com. Now, the other part of it is, like, what can we do to put it into action, right? That is an action. It's like, okay, find someone to connect with. I'm offering myself for that connection, okay? So I wanted to talk a little bit about the ways that we can stay connected with our friends. And certainly this will apply to romantic partners, family, and a lot of those people you might be isolated together. But think of the people in your life who are isolated and they're by themselves. For example, I live by myself. I do have 2 of the cutest cats and 1 of the cutest dogs ever. So I definitely have living things with me who love me unconditionally as long as I give them food. So there is some level of connection there, and having, being able to take care of someone else and get affection and provide affection, that sort of thing. So that part I think is taken care of. But otherwise, it's like me and my TV and my podcasts. And so you got to think about that there are a lot of people who are on their own right now. And they might not be people that you can go to and see face to face, because either one or more people might be unwell, it's not a good idea, or you're at some distance. So I wanted to talk about some of the things that you can do for your friends, but again, it might apply to others. And then I want to talk about some of the things that you might be able to do solo, because we can take care of ourselves, then we might be more apt to be able to take care of other people. So let's talk through, I came up with 8 different ways in which we can put this into action for friends. And some of these things, honestly, might be things that I've mentioned here or there on the podcast, but we're in an unprecedented event, so we're bringing things back. Okay, so the first one is ways to stay connected. You could do something with your friends, and that is you could pick a show and watch it together. And that could be at a distance, right? So you can binge watch a series like Stranger Things on Netflix, and you can text while you do it. Or you could set up a text message where it's like you watch an episode, you talk about the episode, and that is something that you're doing together. Okay, I'm going to watch another episode. Okay, I'm on episode 3. What did you think about this? Oh, that was crazy when that thing happened. Or you can talk about it on the phone or FaceTime. Or even if you want to have more than one person doing that, you can set up a private Facebook group and have 3 or 4 of you or however many people in it. And as you watch TV show, you could do it, and you could do it with your specific friends. The other thing to think about is there are groups that already exist. Like, I'm part of a group that loves Schitt's Creek. So let's say, although my friends might not be watching it, I'm watching it and I know other people are watching it, I can go into that group and connect with people that way as well. And when you're part of groups on Facebook, no matter if it's for Schitt's Creek or sewing or for your love of motorcycles, your love of baking, that generally, if the more active we are in those groups, we make connections with other people. And those groups online, I think, will be very helpful for the next few weeks. Okay. So that's something you can watch the program and text. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an entire series. Maybe it's a weekly show. So I watch Good Girls on Sunday nights. So maybe after I watch it, because I get it on Hulu, so I watch on Mondays, that then Monday night I can be like, all right, where are my Good Girls people at? Let's chat about it. And that's a way to stay connected, right? Doing something, although television is passive, you're still doing something, and then you're interacting with other people. In similar vein, you can do a book club. And right now, Best Forevers is doing the monthly challenge. And because it's National Reading Month, the challenge this week is to talk about all the books that we like or enjoy or reading based on the theme each day. And one of the books that I had talked about, one of the themes was book club, and I talked about Water for Elephants, which is a book my mom and I decided to read together. I lived in New York, and she was in Michigan, and so we read the book and we talked about it, and then when I came home to Michigan, we went to go see the movie. And so that might be something that you can do is you could, much like the TV show, could be 1 or 2 people and you could text, or maybe you have a few other people and you start a Facebook group for that. And so again, you're doing something, passing the time, but also staying connected with your friends. And who knows, depending on the book, it might be something that's really enjoyable. It might be something you learn a lot about. Maybe you focus on self-help books or positive thinking. There's so many different ways you could go with this. But again, it's helping you pass the time, because although we were working from home and doing all these things, like, what else is there, right? You know, how are you going to spend your time? And how can you stay connected by doing that? The third one is maybe, and now you want to be careful with this, because sometimes, like when I would be working and now I'll be working from home, I would just come back to my phone and I'd be like, why do I have 75 text messages? Well, between my family group text and my Murderino friend group text, a lot of stuff had happened that day. But a group text, maybe there's a couple of people that you work with that you won't be able to see, and you want to make a text group so you can talk about personal things. You can talk about how you're managing to work from home. I'm a professor, so that would be really great with some other college professors or teachers, where we have a way to lean on people, whether it be for work or for social. And it's a way to stay connected. And so when we do all come back together, it's going to be a long time since we've seen colleagues, for example. And many of our colleagues are also our friends. And so, or you could do a group text. It's like, okay, who are a couple people I know that like something I do? Like, so are my Shitterinos. Those are the Schitt's Creek friends on Facebook. That's the name of the group. But it could also be like, I have 3 friends that really like Schitt's Creek. I'm watching it. But a text group, again, is a great way in which to stay connected. And one of the things is we might not really like texting. I'm not a huge texter. I'm not a huge person to talk on a phone, but I know this is the time in which I need to step it up, so to speak, or get beyond that, because it's absolutely necessary to stay connected. We're already isolated, but we don't want to be further isolated by not reaching out to people that we care about. The fourth one is setting up some phone call dates. Maybe twice a week you talk with a friend, and it can be on the phone, or maybe it's something where you FaceTime, and you could do it while you're trying out new recipes. So I was just on Hallmarkies. The episode came out on Friday the 13th, and we talked about the coronavirus and again, how to stay connected. But we also talked about the wish list. And so that movie was basically about how a woman had a list of all the musts that our partner must have, and like he should be able to cook. And Rachel and I in that episode talked about, Well, you can learn how to cook together. And Rachel's saying you only need 7 recipes. And so maybe this is a chance to try out those recipes, and maybe you're on the phone and you are making cookies at the same time as talking to a friend. And so again, thinking about filling your time in maybe a productive or entertaining way, but also finding a way to connect. Okay. So the next suggestion is you could send notes. So here's a time to say that I'm thinking about people, or just giving people a chance to receive something. I mean, as far as we know, the post office is still in effect and will be. You never know. But that you're sending them notes. I might say wash your hands before the card, after the card, and that when you get mail, wash your hands after that as well. But that might be a great way. One of the things I used to love is that my grandma, Nickley, would send me cards in the mail and just ask about the cats and all that kind of stuff. And it was nice to know that she was thinking of me. And even though she's not a cat person, that she knows how much I love them, that she would ask me about it, ask me about school or work, depending on when it was. And it was always nice. She was someone who always sent cards. And so that could be a chance. Do you have a postcard at home? It doesn't have to be anything long. It goes back to the Pen Pal episode that I did with the Feminist Book Club, and just the idea that a postcard, or if you even have any cards or stationery, you could write cards to people, and that would be something where you're thinking about people you care about, and then they'll receive something in the mail. And maybe you send once a week, right? And if you're just not comfortable sending out mail because you don't want anyone unwell touching it, whether it be yourself or other people, then it might be time to turn to email and send out some emails to people that you care about and keep them updated and see how they're doing and support them that way. So going back to one of the episodes that I did with Jen and Sarah, was Like Attracts Like, and they talked about how they FaceTime. So this goes back to a previous suggestion, but adds in something like playing games together. And they would FaceTime and they played the train game together. That's what I call it. I know that there's probably a more official name. But they would play it together. So they each have one. They set up some rules and things like that. And so they play it. So if you're completely isolated by yourself, you can still interact with a friend and play a game. Another thing you could do is like Words with Friends. So I play my aunts, my mom, my cousin and I have played. I have some Murderino friends that I play with. And some friends, an old roommate, And if you want to play Words with Friends with me, my name is Alysa Ann, Alysannn. So combine my first name and my middle name. And so you can find me on there and just say, hey, I want to play some games. There's a chat function, but it's like Scrabble. And me and my aunt, she kicks my butt. My Aunt Carol, she is so good. I'm like, why can't I ever beat you? I think I beat her once, and it was like the best day ever. But it's one of those things, like, I don't get to see her a lot, but we use the chat function. We talk a little bit, and then we play the games. And so it's always like, oh, let me check if Aunt Carol has done her games, and so I can send my games back. And so there's probably lots of games in which you can do that. But I especially like Words with Friends. And it might be because it's called Words with Friends. Okay, the next one is, if you're someone who's like, I don't, the phone and texting, it's a lot of things, or I'm just overwhelmed and I don't know if I can commit to all that, or working from home is going to be much more challenging because the kids will be home. Well, one of the things might be is just like, how can you reach out to the people that you care about? A quick text, maybe put an alarm on your phone for 9 o'clock each day, and maybe there's 2 or 3 friends that you reach out to, and if you respond to them at some point in the day, that works out. You could also think about, are there any memes or GIFs or anything that can show that you're thinking of the other people, and it can be something that can be really quick to do, or something that you send via Facebook Messenger or an email as well. So I read this article, think you might enjoy it. And then finally, it's help where you can. If you are someone who's well, and as soon as you experience symptoms, obviously it's isolate and follow the steps of the experts. Obviously, I'm not a medical expert. I'm more of a friendship expert. And so, friends, tell your friends to isolate, tell your friends to wash their hands, but help when you can. So, like, I'm not someone who's extremely comfortable around children. However, I plan to post on Facebook if there's anyone who needs me to go get them anything, then I can do that for them, right? I have a neighbor across the way that I want to go over and just be sure she has everything she needs, so that she doesn't have to leave her home because she is a senior citizen and she shouldn't be out and around people. But one of the things I notice about her is she has lots of friends, and I like that. I'm like, you go, girl. I want to be you when I grow up. But help where you can. And helping might be listening to people. It might be keeping up with text messages. It might be doing those FaceTime. It might be going, I wouldn't normally read a book and talk about it, but this is a chance I know my friend loves to read, and I know that she's really concerned. So this might be a way that I can help be a good friend here. So it's help any way we can, being neighborly, being collegial with your colleagues. It's being helpful to those around you because, essentially, we're all in this together. And so really the best way to make it through is to help each other out. And one of the things that I think emotionally will help us is to stay connected. And one of the ways you can do that is connect with people by helping them the best that you can. But one of the things is, besides keeping yourself isolated and keeping you healthy and the ones around you healthy, we also have to think about our emotional well-being personally, because this is a hard time. So what can we do in which to take care of ourselves? So before it was, here's the things we can do with friends. Here's the things that we can do for ourselves to stay connected. And I know that might seem weird because it's like, well, I'm by myself. Well, one of the first things to consider is that any sort of interaction or activity that includes some sort of human life is going to be something that can be helpful. So one of the things is TV, movies, and books all have characters that we can relate to, that we can connect to. It can help us escape. It can help us think. It can help us learn. But there's always humans in some way, generally, that you can connect to, and that is a great way to stay connected. And also, this might be a chance to pull out the books that you've really wanted a chance to read. Maybe it's something with professional development. Maybe it's something to do with self-help. I just read Gretchen Rubin's book about sort of minimizing clutter, and so that was something that I was really thoughtful about. And now I'm like, okay, maybe every day I can organize one area, or something like that. So books, TV, movies, we can learn from things, we can enjoy things, but they generally include humans in some way. And so that is a great way to sort of have human connection if it isn't actual people. Okay? Which, if you step it up, the second suggestion is obviously to listen to podcasts, because you have your friends right in your ear holes. Hello, friends. It's me, Alysa. This is episode 113. So if you haven't listened to them all, you can go back. I will be releasing every Friday. And I also have Fatalities podcast, which is true crime. So if you're not sick of me yet, I have over 30 episodes over there. But obviously, again, it's true crime. But there's so many podcasts to choose from. If you really want to learn more about diseases and viruses, there's lots of podcasts out there, like This Podcast Will Kill You. Ologies just did something recently on the coronavirus. There are podcasts that are history-based, comedy-based, true crime, self-help, working out, health and fitness, audio dramas, so there's lots to listen to. Some of my favorites, Three Spooked Girls is true crime and paranormal. Spoop Hour is a funny paranormal, and they've been on here before. Fabled by Vanessa, if you really want to get into lore and fables. My friend Jennifer and her audio drama Haunted Happenstance is a whole amazing, it's awesome. My friend Paul and his co-host do Varmints, which is all about animals. I mean, there's lots of things. If you like movies and relationships, listen to Happily Ever Aftermath. I mean, And those are just some of my favorites, but that doesn't mean there isn't a million to choose from. But it does a lot of times feel like you're having a conversation with someone, and that is something that can be helpful to learning new things or thinking about things, but also, again, being connected. And that's where number 3 comes in. Is there something that you want to learn or something that you want to do? There's a lot of free classes online if you have access to the internet and to Wi-Fi. And so, there's a social media certificate that I've thought about doing, and I'm like, well, maybe this is the chance to do it, right? And so it's not just this time where I'm sitting on the couch bored or just super nervous and anxious. Like, I'm trying to find a way to be productive. So I'm going to look into that, but I'm also thinking, like, is there something that I want to learn about that I don't know a lot about? Is there just like a topic? And maybe there's some docs I can watch. Maybe there's some books I can listen to. Maybe there's some books I already have that I just haven't had the chance to. I have a bunch of biographies that, Princess Diana, Marilyn Monroe, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I mean, maybe this is the time to learn more about other people, which would go back to number 1, which is books provide us some level of connection to humans because they're about humans. Next, I would say you can work on a lot of things around the home that can keep you busy, but also maybe make you feel pretty good because it's getting a project done that you haven't been able to do before. And some of the connection back to friends might be asking friends for some assistance. Like, okay, if you're working on some sort of project, maybe they can give you assistance about how to put something together, or if you're crafting, you might be able to kickstart for the holidays or maybe make things for other people. And again, that's for yourself, but if you think about your friends or other people in your life, you can make those things for people, right? Maybe it's time that you started quilting or cross-stitching, or you just want to be more creative, so you color more. There's lots of ways that we can spend time that can be good for ourselves. And as I mentioned, because I've read the Gretchen Rubin book, I'm thinking about organization, and I'm thinking about picking a closet or a room each day and doing a little something at it so that my house feels like a place that I want to be, which it already does. Like, I like my home. It's very cozy. I'm very grateful for the home that I have and having a roof over my head. But then it's thinking about, okay, is this all the stuff that I need? And the quote is like, if it's not useful or beautiful, you don't need it, So there might be some ways in which to lighten our load, so to speak. And then there might be people who need things now, especially, that we could donate, right? But also we could come up with systems to have a better schedule or routine or just organization for how you do something, right? Like, because I do a lot of mailings for the podcast, I have set up a little center where I have everything I need to do that. And so that was something I've done before on a break. And although I'm not on a break, I'm just spending a lot of time at home. This might be a good time to do it. And then the last thing I would suggest is getting out into nature. And Finn definitely helps me do that with the cats. I didn't do it so much, but Finn, he goes, and I'm going to spell it because he's sitting next to me. The life of a dog parent. We go OUT at least 6 times a day. So it's nice to get out there. And so we can go longer WALKs. But just getting out in nature, and that's something I've appreciated a lot more since I adopted Finn, is just noting the sky and the birds and the trees and having some fresh air and enjoying some of the sun. And, as long as we're not around a lot of people, we might be able to do some of that stuff, like getting around, even just walking outside can, even if you're just like, I'm not feeling it, just go around the block or to the end of the block and back and see what it does for you. Because again, during this time, we are in serious forced isolation, but we need to remain connected with other people. It's critical to our emotional, mental, physical health, and it's good for our soul to stay connected, because these are unsure times, these are unprecedented times, and this is when we need our friends. And I have friends who are going to be overly worried with children and partners and other things like that. Well, at least I can do is check in with them. And I've already had that same friend that I'm thinking of specifically already check in with me multiple times. We just have to maybe think of a couple things that we can do and put it into action, whether it be alarms on the phone to connect with friends, or suggesting something to get a few people involved so that everyone can at least have an outlet, something else to do, a way to lean on other people, and do whatever we can to help, but also remember yourself. What is it going to take? I know self-care is a buzzy word, but what can you do to take care of yourself? Because, like I said, we don't know what's going to happen, but if we band together, we're going to make it the best that we can. So if you have any suggestions for me about how you're staying connected during the coronavirus, feel free to tag me or message me on social media at Best Forevers Pod, and that's on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also email me at bestforeverspod@gmail.com. Again, that email is open for any venting, questions, comments, concerns, anything that I can do to help you during this time through words, encouragement, ideas, then I will do my part. But also, if you have any other ideas for people, that would be lovely to share, because, if there's something that we can hold on to or that we can look forward to, then we're going to be better off. So until next time, friends, take care of yourself, take care of your people, and be sure to stay connected, because without our friends, who would we be? Listening to Best Forevers. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and of course, share with a friend. Please be sure to follow Best Forevers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Best Forevers Pod, and I'm at Dr. Alysa Lucas on Twitter. You can always find the podcast webpage for more information at bestforeverspod.com, and share your stories of friendship by emailing me at bestforeverspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the movement to love on our friends more, check out the podcast on patreon.com/bestforeverspod. Now, friends, check out this recommended podcast that you must get in your ear holes immediately.
Hey! Welcome to Shamblefest!
I'm Jess.
I'm Amber, and we are your one-stop weekly shop for news shambles.
We're a weekly WTF and current events comedy podcast. We drop episodes every Monday morning. Tune in.
Shamble on!